Hello, this is What's All About, and I'm very happy and pleased to say that I'm one of the very first review sites to get my hands on the new Huckleberry and Co. Archibald watches. Currently going around many blog sites, ready to be pushed out there as much as possible, ready for their Kickstarter launch next month in November 2015. As you can see, we have the two versions here, stainless steel and the rose gold. So, how much are they going for? Well, on Kickstarter, they're going to be priced at 380 Australian dollars, which equals 250 US dollars, and that equals about 165 British pounds, which is pretty good. And then after that, the prices are still fairly good. 490 Australian dollars, 345 US dollars, which equals about 225 pounds. So when you think about the specs, you'll realise that it's not a bad price at all. So obviously we have a stainless steel case, Sapphire Crystal. We have a Miyota 9132 movement, which is automatic, but it also has a power reserve indicator and a 24-hour indicator as well, and a date. It's high beat, and it has hand winding capability and a hacking second hand as well. What are the specs are there? Well, it's 40 millimeters in diameter, 11.5 mil tall, and it has a lug to lug length of 48 millimeters. It weighs 74 grams, so it's got a fair, comfortable weight to it, and it has a 20 mil lug width, tapering down to 18 mil at the buckle. It's water resistant to 50 meters, so it's sufficient enough to go for a very light swim in it, and that's it. That's all the specs. So from a price point of view, obviously from the Kickstarter campaign, Kickstarter campaigns are always designed to be a great price. So £165 for one of these is a really good price, but I still think it's the normal RRP price. You're still getting quite a good deal. So let's have a look at it in closer detail then to have a look at the exact ins and outs. So first of all, the two differences. It's quite dependent on what you like. They both offer something different, I think, which is quite nice, but very subtle differences. So obviously we have the case is the different finishing. The finishing is the same, but the stainless steel colour against the gold plating, as you can see there, have a colour difference. And then the case back is to match. And looking at the dial, then the buckle is different as well to match the case. And then we have the dial as well. So the hands are coloured to match the case as well. So we have stainless steel hands on the stainless steel one, and then gold plated hands on the gold plated case as well. And then finally, the next difference is the actual dial colour is different as well. We have a very straight white colour dial on the stainless steel version, which is very nice. And then equally as nice is this, it's like a sandy gold, very light hue to the gold case, which is really, really smart. Almost like a creamy, champagne-y colour as well. So very, very subtle, but ever so slight change to the dial really brings out the colour of the case really nicely. So they both offer something completely different, as you can see lying there. So they're both equally very nice. I do enjoy both of them equally. So that's a great start. So looking at the case, as I mentioned before, it's all completely polished, and we have these very thin lugs which look like wire lugs, but in fact, they do actually have spring pins in there, which is quite clever because it's got the idea of this Huckleberry and Co. Archibald is to have quite a Bauhaus design to it, a design that wouldn't look out of place in, say, the 1920s. So I think they've done a good job here, and I like the way they've disguised a standard lug to look like a wire lug, so that's quite a nice little touch. Very straightforward case shape as well. It's just basically a real plain barrel, and then the case back is ever so slightly curved along the edges, and then we have the exhibition window at the back as well. So the case in essence is quite straightforward. We have a nice push-pull crown as well, and I really like the knurled grip. Offers very good grip, and it's very well machined as well. So just pull it out, and then I can just adjust the time, and it gives you a good amount of purchase for winding it as well. So if you see me just wind up see the power reserve indicator going up as I wind it. There we go. So moving on to the dial then. I personally really like power reserve indicators, and it's not something that you see too often on affordable watches or even Kickstarter campaigns, so that's quite a nice little addition. I find it really handy to see how much power reserve you've got left in the barrel, so it's definitely something that's handy to have, and you know, if you have the option to have one there, then great. So very handy to have when this is in your watch box, just to have a quick glance to see how much power reserve is in it, so you can give it a quick wind if you need to, or obviously you can just keep on wearing it. So we've already mentioned the colour of the dial. We have quite simple printing around the outside as well, just a minute track, and then the logo printed at 3 o'clock, Huckleberry and Co. Obviously we have the details on the power reserve indicator, the 0 to 10 hours, just red dots to signify that's a bit dangerous, you better wind it up or wear it. And then we have just a little bit of printing around the 24-hour dial, and that is actually surrounded in a nice little polished steel ring as well. Interestingly, on both watches the steel ring is like a rose goldy colour, so I would have thought that on the stainless steel one they would have actually put a stainless steel ring on it, so you never know, that might be something that they will do with the actual release watches. So we then have the date window at 3. It is simply cut out of the dial, but it has a nice little printed border around it just to keep things a little bit interesting and to separate it nicely from the rest of the dial. For those of you who care about the date window, the date wheel matching the dial, obviously the white one would be your best choice because it does match. Whereas on the rose gold one, it is a white date wheel. As you can see in it, it's slightly offset from the champagne colour of the dial. So the hands, again, very simple in design, very stick thin really, very elegant as well. Nicely made, nicely machined and finished and applied. So it's up to you whether you like the style of them really. I do like the counterweights on the two small indicator hands, make it a little bit more interesting than the plain sticks that have been used on the time. So that's a nice little mixture of designs there. So the dials are good. I feel they're very well designed, and you know, they're quite a striking watch really, considering their simplicity. So that's good. Okay, so moving on to the just get that in focus. Moving on to the case back, as I mentioned, we just have very slightly angled in edge, so it's a very slight dome exhibition case back, and then we just have a couple of tiny bits of engraving, one at the top saying Huckleberry and Co, and then at the bottom we have designed in Melbourne there, and then the exhibition case back exhibition window showing off the 9132 movement. So Miyota obviously are doing very well with the affordable watch brands at the moment. The 9 series, in particular the 9015, is doing very well because it's an affordable equivalent to the Swiss-made automatics, because it has more or less all the same specs. High beats, so it's 28.8 thousand beats per minute, beats per hour, sorry, or 8 ticks a second. Hand winding, hacking around 40 hours power reserve, and very well made and quite it's a good workhorse movement. It's not going to let you down much at all, and straight out of the box they're usually pretty accurate as well. So if I just show you the other one as well, it looks more or less exactly the same. Visually they're not the most attractive. They look alright, but they're quite industrial, and that is just the way the Miyota 9 series is, unfortunately. So there's not a lot we can do or say about that. So it's still cool to have an exhibition case back, no matter how plain or simple the movement is. So that's good. So we also have a leather strap. It does come in black or brown. Both of these watches have the black strap, so I can't show you what the brown strap looks like. But the leather is nice and reasonably supple. Usually on watches below £200, the leather strap is like the first thing to not be quite as high quality. So this is better than usual, but it's still not incredibly supple. But it is certainly good enough to get by. I personally wouldn't rush to replace it, so it certainly does the job nicely. Again, keeps things very simple with the lack of stitching on the top and bottom, as you can see there. It has a very soft bottom to it as well, so it is pretty comfortable on. Just show you. There you go. And then we have the buckle, which is a pretty simple tang buckle with Huckleberry and Co. Nice and deeply engraved on the end there, as you can see. And then, interestingly enough, underneath we have stainless steel engraved as well. So there we go. Okay, so let's get the macro lens on, and we'll have a look at it in a little bit closer detail. Let's see, here we are. Okay, let's start with the rose gold version. So here we have just get that in focus. Here we have the power reserve indicator with the printed markings and the little hand there. Moving on to the date, you can see the difference in colour, but the printing is pretty nice. And here we have the 24-hour indicator. Nice subtle concentric circular pattern on that, actually, which offers a tiny amount of texture to the dial, which is quite nice to see. We can see the goldy brassy colour ring around that as well, which is matching on the stainless steel version. Moving on to the Huckleberry & Co logo, again printed pretty fine, and around the outside we have this minute track with the hour markers, quite subtly printed on, actually, quite minimal really. And then we have a slight pitch to the hands. You can see the two main hands, very tiny pitch there, and then a straight point for the second hand, very nice and long and thin and elegant, and we'll see that it's almost bang on the same length as the minute hand as well. So I'll just show you briefly the other one. So there's the 24-hour indicator with the brassy ring printing. The dial on this is almost silvery, actually, when you look at it close up, and then we can see the hands there. And then the matching date wheel there. There you go. So moving on to the case itself, just give this a bit of a a wipe down. The H is quite deeply engraved. You'll have to excuse the very slight scuff marks. This has done a fair bit of travelling already. And there's the knurled grip, which is nice to see. Pull it out. There we go. And then the polished finishing is very mirror-like. It's good. Do a good job. Done a good job on that. And then the wired looking lug there. So I'll just give this a wipe down. Obviously being polished, it does show up the fingerprints and smudges and marks quite well, so got to keep it nice and clean. There's a Huckleberry and Co. Quite nice and deeply engraved on the case back. Then the other side designed in Melbourne. There we go. And then we can have a look at the movement. It's the Miyota 9132. Just flip it upside down. You can see it ticking away there. There we go. So now we just have a look at the strap. You can see the top there. And the underside looks very nice and soft, as you can see. And finally we have the buckle. So this is the rose gold buckle. And then the stainless steel buckle here. There we go. Okay. So there you have it. The Huckleberry and Co. Archibald. They're both, very well designed, very well made watches for the price, especially at the Kickstarter price. It's it's a pretty good bargain, £165. So would I recommend it? I definitely would. Australia seems to be doing really well in terms of launching micro brands and affordable watches. So add Huckleberry and Co to the list. They're doing a great job in creating a few really nice little brands to get to know, and all the guys are all really nice as well, I've found. So that's always nice to know. So there you go. Very smart looking, simple Bauhaus designed watch with the added feature of a power reserve indicator and a 24-hour indicator. Quite an unusual movement as well that you don't see too often, the Miyota 9132. Decent specs. Sapphire Crystal. Forgot to mention actually that the anti-reflective coating on it is really good. Obviously it being a flat crystal always helps over a domed crystal, but as you can see, I'm in a conservatory at the moment and the reflections are actually being kept really quite to a minimal, so they're doing a really good job there. Okay, so there we go, a very good good spec watch, very well made as well, nice brand, lovely design. So this was the Huckleberry and Co. Archibald, and that's what it's all about.